Good morning, everyone. You know, as I was listening to the prior speakers, and I was listening to the governor and Molly, who I met, as she indicated, several years ago, and someone that I deeply admire, and frankly, someone and a program that I hope to take to San Francisco someday. I can't help but share with you that the work that is being done here today is incredible and is uncommon. If we had more people doing what Molly and Roca is doing here today, the problem with over-incarceration or mass incarceration in this country would go away very quickly. So I want to thank you, Molly. I am really honored to be here today and celebrate the incredible work that you do. You know, in anticipating today, I was thinking about the things that adults often say when they're talking about frustration with young people. And some of the things that we say is like, you know, what were they thinking? Or what were you thinking? We also talk often about, do you consider the consequences of your actions? And why do you keep doing this when you know that the outcomes are always predictably going to be so bad? You know, as we've gotten smarter about the science behind brain development, of course, we have learned that there are good answers to these questions, not necessarily the answers that young people give us, but answers that are grounded on ongoing integration of their brains. In fact, we know that these kinds of comments are not the most productive way to help our young people develop. However, what strikes me about this question is that they're actually the questions that we should be asking about our criminal justice system, because to be clear, our criminal justice system is not working. Our over-reliance on traditional prosecution and incarceration has led to the highest recidivism rates of any developed nation in the world. And almost in any industry, if we had that much of a failure rate, we would recognize that we would be going out of business quickly. Our recidivism rates and our failure has crippled local budgets. They have devastated generations of family, and in the end, left our communities less safe. And yet, we continue to do the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. We need to ask a question: why do we keep doing this when the outcomes are often so bad and so predictable? At a minimum, I believe we should hold our justice system and ourselves to the same expectations that we hold our young people. To learn and grow from our mistakes, to move beyond immediate gratification and think about long term, to try new things even when they feel uncomfortable, and to resist lashing out in anger and impulse. To avoid decisions justified by turf or size. I recognize that none of the things are easy to do at any age, but we can't continue with business as usual in our justice system. We need to take dramatic action, and we need to do so now. Let's start with low-level offenses. I believe that as much as possible, low-level, nonviolent offenses should be resolved at the community and by the community. And I believe that individuals who have committed these crimes should have the opportunity to repair the harm they have caused to the victim and the community. In my first year as a district attorney, I launched a new program that we call our neighborhood courts, where we take nonviolent, low-level misdemeanors and we take them outside the court system and we put them in a system where community volunteers work with the offenders and the victims in order to resolve the matter. In this case, as individuals discuss their incident with the panel, they talk to the volunteers, and they work out a solution. Neighborhood courts resolve cases far faster than our traditional system, usually within 60 days, and after before the individual will have their first court appearance. And participants can move on, making the victim whole and making themselves better. Since the inception of neighborhood courts, we have handled approximately 2,500 cases, and I know that that is a modest number, but this model is growing and is being replicated now in LA and other parts of California. But changing our approach to how we deal with low-level offenses is not enough. We need to take a hard look at which crimes we classified as felonies. We need to be honest about the lifetime implications of a felony conviction, and we need to wean ourselves from our addiction to incarceration as a treatment for drug abuse and mental illness. In 2014, I co-authored a statewide ballot measure in California called Proposition 47 that reduced simple possession of drugs in 5 petty theft offenses often associated with drug addiction from felonies to misdemeanors. Many indicated that the sky was going to fall and that we would never be the same. Well, a year over since we started, I can tell you that the savings from this have resulted in tremendous decreases in incarceration, and the investments are going back into education, truancy prevention, treatment, and victim services. Proposition 47 passed by 60% of the vote, a clear mandate from Californians to reform our justice system. Since the passage, the state has projected savings of $110 million annually. Over 13,000 individuals have been released from our jails and prisons, with only 5% of them returning to prison. And more than 200,000 people have petitioned to have their felonies reduced to misdemeanors, paving the way for real access to employment, benefits, and a brighter future. Finally, we can't limit reform to people who feel safe. If we really want to reduce incarceration and recidivism, we need to be bold enough to do the things differently with individuals who challenge us, and frankly, people that often scare us. In San Francisco, I expect in most jurisdictions as well, one of the groups most overrepresented in our jail system is our young adults. Young adults ages 18 to 25 comprise less than 10% of our population, but they are 25% of our prosecutions. They represent 28% of the prison commitments, and they comprise 49% of the people involved in robberies. Often cases involving young adults defendants are the most challenging for us. We strive to balance public safety with our reluctance to remove young people from their families and communities. We know that if we get it right with a young person, we can change his or her trajectory, and it's a significant returning investment for the young person, the family, and the community, and the fabric of our society. We know that impulse and poor decision-making are developmentally normal for this age, but they can make it hard for us to take a chance on a young offender. We also see over and over that the adult criminal justice system is ill-equipped to meet the needs of this unique population. Judges and attorneys are not trained in the developmental limitations and needs of a young adult. Young adults often do not conduct themselves well in court or interviews in an adult-oriented service system. Age-appropriate coping mechanisms are often misread as insolence or a lack of remorse. Many adult services providers do not operate programs specific for this age group, and they mix them with older, more hardened individuals. We need new paradigms for our young adult offenders, for meeting them where they are, developmentally reducing their recidivism and helping them transform their lives. Over the last year, we have taken an exciting new step forward in our response to young adults in San Francisco. Inspired by the work that Roca and the Harbor Executive Sessions on Community Corrections, my office is partnered with the courts, the public defender, probation, and community-based organizations to launch our young adult court for men and women 18 to 25. Our court, which was piloted in August of 2015, handles a broad range of offenses with a focus on serious and violent felonies. In other words, the offenses that land young people in jails and prisons. Young adult court is called what we often refer to as a collaborative court, where the judges, the prosecutors, the defense, probation, and service providers work as a team with a young person for an extended period of time. These courts have a proven record of success, helping individuals suffering from drug addiction, mental illness, and most recently, veterans. The basic premise is that helping an individual recover from an underlying issue, such as addiction and trauma, we can reduce their criminal behavior. In young adult court, the underlying issue, of course, is the unique development stage of a young man or woman. But it's just not about their age. We're also acutely aware of the widespread trauma among our justice system involved individuals and the impact that trauma on long-term health outcomes. The combined effect of the trauma in young adults' brain development can be particularly toxic. The young adult court team has collectively developed a model that is both developmentally and trauma-informed, from the courtroom to the counseling sessions. Each participant works with a specialized trained clinician who collaborates with the entire system to engage, motivate, and support the participant to stabilize his transition into adulthood and reduce recidivism. Our participants play a star role, developing their individual goals and speaking with the judge at every court appearance about both their successes and their setbacks. To be sure, young adult court is very new, and much like its participants, is still under development. But I have to tell you, I have been particularly pleased with the willingness of my prosecutors to put their faith in their serious cases in this court. In 6 months, the court has filled to capacity. At the outset, one of my veteran prosecutors, a former police officer, asked me if he could take on the young adult court in addition to his other duties as a managing attorney of our homicide unit. He clearly was already very busy, but he said that he wanted to be a prosecutor in the young adult court because he wanted to help make positive changes in the life of young people before they ended up on his caseload as a defendant or a homicide victim. He felt that there had to be a better way for our system to work with our young adults. Obviously, not every prosecutor, even in San Francisco, is ready to embrace reform, but there are many men and women in law enforcement today who believe that there has to be a better way. Indeed, leaders and policymakers across the political spectrum have recognized the need for reform, and certainly the public is making it clear that it's ready for a new journey. In thinking about how we want our system to evolve, I can help but think about young adults' brain development and the idea of integration. Young adult brains are engaged in a dynamic period of integration. Their left brain and the right brain begin to work in tandem, and their prefrontal cortex continues to develop and coordinate with the midbrain. At the same time, young adults are integrating into the community in a new way, figuring out the way they can fit into the world around them, and beginning to understand the context of their actions. I believe that integration also can be a keystone for our criminal justice system. We need to integrate the community into the justice system in an authentic and meaningful way. We need to integrate our adversarial actors, prosecutors, and defense in a collaborative model, and we need to integrate defendants as active participants in their cases. We need to integrate the justice system with preventive services so that individuals don't need to be locked up to get the mental health or addiction services that they need. We need to integrate science and data into our work, both to design new models and for continuous improvement. There's one final lesson I think that we can take from young adults. certainly young men and women can be challenging and frustrating, and it's easy to focus on the negative aspects of this age group, especially for those that are just as involved. But this developmental stage is also a time of great opportunity. Some of the most important technological advances and political movements of our time have been fueled by young adults. Young adults are literally wired for risk-taking, creativity, and innovation. This is a moment for great opportunity and need. The fundamental reform of our justice system needs to be inspired by the young people around them and their willingness to question assumptions, take risk, and think big. Thank you.